Step number 16 is doing a final review of the project schedule. At this point, we have done everything, step 1 through 15. We've put together activities, developed an outline, added correct calendars, added resources, cost resources, removed redundancies, reduced the excess of float. And at this point, we want to look at the schedule to make sure everything we did makes sense. If we compress the schedule twice and now we know it fits in the time frame, we're going to walk through activity by activity to make sure it makes sense. This is what I like to do. I like to close individual line item, individual summary tasks like construction there, and then what I want to do is remove the summary task at that point, and then I'm able to look at from start to, within a summary task from start to end, and look at exactly what task take place. So the first thing I'm going to do after I remove those summary tasks is sort by start date. And after I've done that, now I'm going to show me from start to complete without summary task if it makes sense. So does it make logical sense looking at the relationships that actually exist there? Does it seem like everything flows correctly? That's the key here. And you can do that for pre-construction. Then I go back in and I look at, open the summary task up again, open up construction, close pre-construction, and then remove the summary task. And now we can look on it, and before we start looking at it, we're going to sort by start date. Okay, sort by start date. And we're going to look at it, okay, start with mobilization, and then field layout. Can we do field layout while we're doing mobilization? Then we're going to start excavation, column footings prep, and so on and so forth. You see an issue here on the structural steel RF joist. It seems like that it has an excessive amount of float. It seems like there's a gap there, and we want to look back at our relationships at the bottom here and make sure that there's a reason for that, and the driving force behind that is a structural steel delivery, so that's why it's being pushed out right there. But we want to go through from the beginning to the end, making sure our logic relationships make sense. So the key is here is a sort by early start. Only open the section you're going to be looking at. That may be pre-construction, construction, post-construction, and we want to look at the logic relationships and to make sure it makes sense. We want to look at the cascading effect by sorting early start from left to right, just really checking for logic issues more than anything. Logic is so important when you do a schedule, because after you planned it and you update it as it shifts activities, if the logic is incorrect, your schedule update will be incorrect. And normally that's the complaint you'll get from on-site people, will be the schedule doesn't reflect reality. And the reason it probably doesn't reflect reality is that the logic relationship, meaning the predecessor successor, is not correct. So this is your chance to prevent that from occurring. So doing a final review is very, very important. Looking at the logic. I'd also say you also want to look at every kind of column that we have here. You want to look at the cost columns and make sure it adds up correctly. All the dollar values add up correctly. So we go put the summary bad task back on and make sure that the total cost matches up. We want to make sure we don't have any actuals in there whatsoever. And then after you do the final review, you want to go ahead and hide some of the columns like predecessor and successor, because you have a closed network at that point. And we want to be stuck with the traditional columns. And the traditional columns are task name, duration, early start, early finish, late start, late finish, actual start, actual finish, want to hide these start columns. They have start and finish. That's just early start, a different way of looking at it. Okay. Total slack, cost, percent complete, actual cost. And notice I'm compressing the columns a little bit, and the reason I'm doing that is to be able to make as much information visible when we go to print it as possible. This line right here shows where the difference between the Gantt chart view is and the Excel format kind of view. You also want to hide things like task mode. We don't need to look at that. We don't need to look at this indicator. Okay, we only want the information we're going to use. So we're going to move that line back over, and this is, now we have a schedule that has been reviewed by Logic. We verified the logic. We verified the total costs are correct. We removed any unnecessary columns. We've added in the necessary columns to do a schedule update. And now that we have all that done, we're going to move on to the next step, which is setting the baseline.